We turn now to acclaimed pollster and strategist Frank Luntz, the CEO of FIL Inc., to walk us through the gun control debate in the U.S. Frank, thanks for being here. Maybe I should have said the gun safety debate, because so much of this has to do with semantics right now. But as a pollster, I just want to start with public sentiment. We've been hearing daily since Uvalde that wide swaths of the American public support expanded background checks, things like red flag laws. It gets a little more complicated when you talk about banning certain weapons. But if there's such a extreme public sentiment on this issue, Frank, why are lawmakers so divided?
Well, it starts with how you introduce this segment. If you call it gun control, people think that you're going to take away their guns. If you call it gun safety, which is what most of the legislation is about, they think of public safety. They think of their own safety and security. So messaging does matter. And I'll give you another example. If you ask a question, should any person at any time for any reason be able to buy any gun? The answer is no. And if you begin with that kind of question, you change the entire debate. And one more point. If this is about acting responsibly, about common sense, the public absolutely positively supports some of the change. Now, specifically, because we've been doing polling on this, it's not just the general public that wants changes to our gun laws. It's gun owners themselves. It's even, as we did several years ago, it's even NRA members believe, for example, that an 18-year-old who's not allowed to drink should not be allowed to buy a gun. So this really is overwhelming public sentiment.
The messaging from the right, though, has been very consistent, the slippery slope argument, right? That even if it's a red flag law or a red flag incentive law or whatever it is exactly that might emerge from these negotiations in Washington, that's the first step to eventually people having their guns confiscated. How do you answer that?
You answer that by saying that we see what's happening across the country. And it's only happening in this country. It's not happening across the globe. That if we truly want to change laws, to change conditions, to change the facts on the ground, so these things stop happening, the only way we're going to be able to do this is through some sort of action. And I say this to Democrats. If you insist on banning guns, you're going to get voted out of office, because the public does believe in the Second Amendment. But I say to Republicans, if you insist or try to do nothing, you're going to get punished on Election Day. It's amazing that the American people are truly in the center of this. Let's maintain the Second Amendment, but let's do those laws that we know would make a difference in the shootings that we've all experienced.
So did President Biden go too far then in calling on Congress to reinstate the assault weapons ban?
The vast majority of Americans, which is about 80%, 78% to be precise, believes that there's no reason to have assault weapons. The issue is, how do you define an assault weapon? Something can look like an assault weapon, but actually isn't one. So you're correct. The devil's in the details. But make no mistake, generically, nationally, across the political spectrum, Americans want something done, and they're not going to accept nothing this time.
Frank Luntz, a lot's been said about the NRA over the past couple of weeks. Of course, they held their convention, which drew a lot of attention. Donald Trump spoke there. I just wonder, are we making too much of the NRA's influence, or are donations to political campaigns the reason why as well that we've had so little movement on this?
I assure you, point blank, that members of Congress are under so much pressure from their own voters that it doesn't matter whether they're getting a $1,000 or even a $5,000 check. They're voting their own beliefs. They're voting their own philosophy. The question is whether they're voting the beliefs and the philosophy of the people they represent. My father was a lifetime NRA member. I grew up in a home that had guns. I am sympathetic to those who want to defend the Second Amendment. But by the same token, times have changed. This is 2022. We've seen the serious impact of what's been happening right now. Can we please just take a responsible, common sense, centrist approach that puts limits and has an impact on those who should not have guns, to protect the rights of those who enjoy hunting or fishing, or who just want to maintain that Second Amendment right?
Frank, have you worked with the White House on this? Have you talked to them about the messaging behind this issue?
I'll be candid with you, which is I've offered it and they haven't taken me up on it. So just maybe your question right now would encourage. This White House, honestly, does not listen. This White House it speaks like Harry Truman and it governs like Franklin Roosevelt. It speaks centrist, governs to the left, and it's one of the reasons why it's been failing on issue after issue after issue. This is a perfect example to get something done, to get credit at a time when the president's approval ratings are at an all-time low. Yeah. But he wants to make a statement. I and so many millions of Americans want to make a difference.
So, Frank, then what does it mean for this administration and for this Democratic majority as long as it's intact if nothing gets done?
The Republicans will get blamed for stonewalling. The Democrats will get blamed for extremism. And what we will have is continued negativity towards Washington. You know what? We can't take anymore. The level of disrespect towards elected officials, the level of disapproval for the White House and Congress are approaching all-time records. This is bad news for Joe Biden. It's bad news for the Democratic majority, but frankly, it's also bad news for the Republicans. Let's do something. As a pollster, as a nonpartisan, non-political pollster, I know that the American people want action, and that's my message to the viewers right now and to the political people in Washington who watch your show. Do something. Stop delaying. Stop condemning. Do something.